In the headlines, Israeli Navy intercepts the global summit flotilla bound for Gaza, with climate activist Greta Thunberg among those detained. America in crisis. The U.S. government shutdown deepens as Republicans and Democrats remain locked in a bitter standoff. Now a new firestorm erupts, with Democrats calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked against President Trump. At the United Nations, Dr. Congo and Rwanda trade heated accusations over the Eastern Congo conflict. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen says Ukraine must repay aid loans, ruling out the seizure of Russian assets. And in South America, Peruvian police arrest suspect Little J over a brutal cocaine-linked triple murder in Argentina. I'm Kristel Guangco. Newsline World starts now. First in our news, 2 men are behind bars in Peru for the alleged role in the shocking killings in Argentina. One of the suspects, known as Little J, and his accomplice are accused of torturing and murdering the victims over a stolen shipment of cocaine.
The victims were used as bait, tortured, and executed over drug-related disputes involving territorial control and debts.
La Policía Nacional quiere informar que el día de hoy, en horas de la mañana y también en horas de la tarde, ha realizado 2 importantes capturas de 2 asesinos, de 2 sicarios que han ocasionado la muerte de 3 féminas en Argentina, ¿no? Este trabajo realizado por la Policía Nacional ha sido estrechamente coordinado con la Policía Provincial de Buenos Aires.
Osorio was arrested in the morning, while Little J was taken into custody hours later after approaching police in Pucusana. Authorities said the suspects allegedly streamed the torture on a private social media group with 45 viewers.
Pero la información que se cuenta de que el móvil para el asesinato de las 3 féminas por parte de varios integrantes de esta organización ha sido por el robo de 3 kilos aproximadamente de cocaína que habían ocasionado una de las féminas a los integrantes de la organización.
Osorio will be extradited to Argentina, while Peruvian authorities await Buenos Aires extradition request for Little J. The case continues to be investigated closely with Argentine police and Interpol. This has been Jane Cognita, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Pro-Palestinian activists aboard a flotilla of vessels sailing toward Gaza have been intercepted by the Israeli Navy. Many activists were on board, including Greta Thunberg. Paul Montibon has the story.
The Global Summit Flotilla, a fleet of ships carrying over 500 people and a symbolic amount of humanitarian aid for Gaza, departed from Spain a month ago. They said their mission is to provide a humanitarian corridor and aid to the enclave. But as their vessel approached, Israeli authorities issued repeated warnings to the flotilla to change course and docked at Ashdod for inspection. Despite this, the activists refused to alter its course.
This is the Israeli Navy. You are approaching a blockaded zone. If you wish to deliver aid to Gaza, you may do so through the established channels. Please change your course toward the port of Ashdod, where the aid will undergo a security inspection and then be transferred into the Gaza Strip.
We advise you that we are a humanitarian, non-violent solidarity mission to break the illegal siege imposed by Israel 18 years ago against the Palestinian people in Gaza and to create a humanitarian corridor.
Israeli vessels were seen in the waters. Later, the Navy intercepted and boarded multiple flotillas vessels. Activists were arrested, including Greta Thunberg. According to the Israeli Foreign Ministry, all passengers are unharmed and in good health. Live stream footage showed the captured captured activists discarding their phones into the sea as soldiers boarded. According to a Palestinian activist aboard the vessel, the flotilla is less than 80 nautical miles away from Gaza when Israeli forces intercepted them. Israeli ambassador to the United Nations Danny Danon said those attempting to enter Israeli territory illegally would be deported immediately after the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. Danon criticized the flotilla, saying that Israel will not allow PR stunts to breach an active war zone or violate its sovereignty. The flotilla organizers said their mission was purely humanitarian, aiming to deliver food during the ongoing crisis in Gaza. However, Israel has accused some of the participants of having links to Hamas. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNI News.
In southern India, tragedy struck at a construction site after scaffolding collapsed at a thermal power project, leaving 9 workers dead and 1 injured. Details from Justin Azaro.
The accident happened late Tuesday afternoon at the Nor SEZ thermal power project on the city's outskirts. Workers had been erecting a massive steel cover for the coal handling unit when the 45-meter-high structure gave way, burying them under heavy steel pipes. Rescue teams and fellow laborers rushed to the scene. In the aftermath, piles of mangled scaffolding scattered across the ground as crews inspected the damage. Authorities confirmed that all 9 victims were migrant workers. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma says efforts are underway to repatriate the remains. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed condolences to the families, calling the accident a painful loss. Modi's government will also provide compensation worth 200,000 rupees for the families of those killed and 50,000 rupees for the injured worker. The exact cause of the scaffolding collapse is still under investigation. Justin Azario, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Up next, EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen says Ukraine must repay aid loans, ruling out the seizure of Russian assets. More news after the break.
How to receive God's favor. So, for us, in order to receive the favor of God, we must avoid a holier than thou attitude. Importante sa harap ng ating Panginoon na tayo ay may kababaan ng loob na huwag nating tingnan at mapagmataas tayo sa ating mga sarili. Isaiah chapter 57 verse 15. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. Bilang mga anak ng Diyos na tunay, upang tayo ay kasihan ng kanyang pabor, kailangan tayo ay hindi lamang mapagpakumbaba, kundi tayo ay mapagpatawad. If you want to seek the favor of God, be forgiving in your heart. So that when you pray and lift up holy hands to heaven, the Lord of heaven will also forgive your trespasses. May pabor ka na sa Diyos pagka ikaw ay dumadalangin na pinatawad mo ang kasalanan ng iba. In order to receive the favor of God, we must be humble. We must be forgiving. And we should not judge. And then, if you want to have favor with God, you must love God and obey God's words at all times. Ang aklat na ito ng kautusan ay huwag mahihiwalay sa iyong bibig, kundi iyong pagbubulayan araw at gabi upang iyong masunod na gawin ang ayon sa lahat ng nakasulat dito sapagkat kung magkagayoy, iyong pagiginhawain ang iyong lakad, at kung magkagayoy, magtatamo ka ng mabuting kawakasan. Magkakaroon ka ng pabor sa harap ng ating Panginoon. Mahalin ang kanyang mga banal na salita, ipamuhay ang kanyang banal na salita, sundin ang kanyang banal na salita, huwag hihiwalay ang kanyang banal na salita sa ating bibig araw at gabi. Pagbubulayan natin yan araw at gabi. Bago kayo magtrabaho sa umaga, pagkagising ninyo, kumuha muna kayo ng mga salita ng Diyos. Magbasa kayo, mag-devotional kayo. Basahin ang salita ng Diyos. Mahalin ang salita ng Diyos. Huwag ilagay ang Biblia at patungan ng anumang klaseng libro. Kailangan yan ay nasa ibabaw ng lahat ng libro.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito, pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulong at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, saka palalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Now we're back for more news. In the Philippines, Malacanang is backing the Supreme Court's decision declaring the Bangsamoro Transition Authority's redistricting laws unconstitutional. As a result, the first Bangsamoro parliamentary elections, originally scheduled for October 13th, have been postponed. The Office of the President said the ruling issued on September 30th helps ensure that the upcoming elections will be held in full alignment with the Philippine Constitution. The palace reaffirmed its commitment to the peace process and democratic development of the Bangsamoro region, pledging full support to all constitutionally mandated institutions. Malacanang also emphasized the ongoing national efforts to build lasting peace in Mindanao, anchored on genuine autonomy, the rule of law, and respect for the people's right to vote. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has clarified that a new plan to aid Ukraine does not involve confiscating frozen Russian assets. The remarks came as EU leaders gathered in Copenhagen amid divisions on how far Europe can legally go in supporting Kiev. More on this from Franco Baranda.
EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen is defending a controversial plan to loan Ukraine 140 billion euros, insisting it does not involve seizing Russia's frozen assets. She explained that the proposed loan for Ukraine would be based on cash balances from immobilized Russian assets, but stressed that ownership remains untouched.
We're not confiscating the assets, but we're taking the cash balances for loan to Ukraine. Ukraine has to pay back this loan if Russia pays reparations because the perpetrator has to be held accountable.
Experts say the plan goes further than previous steps, which only used profits from frozen assets. Now funds from Euroclear, Belgium's depository, would be directly transferred to the EU to finance the loan. But the legality remains disputed, with some leaders warning the scheme could undermine investors' confidence or amount to an illegal seizure of sovereign wealth. Moscow has condemned the proposal as theft. Von der Leyen also commented on a string of recent drone sightings over Denmark, Poland, and Estonia, all blamed on Russia by some EU states.
We had drones in Poland. We had the incursion of the airspace in Estonia is a pattern. And this pattern is coming from Russia insofar as Russia tries to test us, but Russia also tries to sow division and anxiety in our societies. We will not let this happen.
Danish authorities say foreign drones were spotted near military bases and airports, while Moscow insists it had no involvement and accuses Europe of escalation. The controversy comes as EU leaders discuss new air defense projects, including a possible drone wall, while weighing how far the bloc can stretch the law to keep Ukraine funded. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, Franco Baranda, SMNI News.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin is warning European leaders not to move forward with a controversial loan plan for Ukraine. Russia says the scheme, which uses frozen Russian assets, will have serious consequences. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says the European Union's new €140 billion loan plan for Ukraine would backfire. Peskov described the plan as stealing and warned of legal consequences and another step towards completely destroying trust in the principle of property inviolability. Peskov also warned that the EU's plan would boomerang on their member countries and institutions relying on investment attractiveness. The Kremlin spokesman also warned that any individual or country who wants to steal and illegally appropriate Russian property and assets and use dividends from the said assets will undoubtedly be persecuted and be held accountable. Critics inside Europe warn that the scheme could amount to seizing sovereign assets, something many EU leaders have long argued is illegal under international law. Meanwhile, in Pakistan's Punjab province, the Ministry of Education has rolled out a 2 and free shift system in schools, hoping to keep children learning despite massive damage caused by months of devastating floods. Almar Faswala reports.
Entire communities in Punjab remain underwater due to heavy monsoon rains that began in late June. Drone images show submerged neighborhoods, while children are seen navigating flooded streets to reach what remains of their schools. According to officials, over 3,000 schools in the province were damaged or destroyed, with classrooms reduced to rubble. Many pupils now study in cramped or dimly lit rooms, some sitting on the floor.
क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो फ्लड की सूरत थी, पानी की सैलाब का बहुत ज़्यादा था और यहाँ पे पानी का लेवल इस दीवार के यहाँ तक आ रहा है। तकरीबन ये 5 से 6 फुट पानी था यहाँ पे। अब जबकि सैलाब का पानी तो उतर चुका है, अब बच्चों को बड़ी दुश्वारी है। ये रास्ता ये आ रहा है जो कि ना स्कूल के अंदर आता है, इसके अंदर भी अभी तक भी 4 फुट पानी मौजूद है।
The challenges extend beyond the classroom walls. Many children still struggle just to get to school, with flood waters cutting off regular pathways.
सारे इलाके दे विच बहुत नुकसान थे स्कूलों का, तलीम विच बहुत हर्ज थे ये, और ये सारे काफ़ी स्कूल जेडे डैमेज थी गए, बिल्कुल ज़मीन बोझ थी गए। असा अपने बच्चों को एक डी 3 क्लासा देंदे से फर्स्ट सेकंड व शाम को।
Punjab's Minister for School Education Rana Sikandar Hayat says rehabilitation may take up to 3 months. In the meantime, makeshift facilities and staggered shifts are being used to ensure that children do not lose more time. The United Nations estimates that more than 6 million people have been affected by the floods, with 1,000 lives lost, including 250 children and some 2.5 million displaced. Reporter for Newsline World, Almar Forswalo, SMNI News.
When we come back, Vice President Sara Duterte visits quake-hit Cebu, ordering quick relief and offering prayers for survivors. And Filipina tennis star Alex Eala powers through a 3-hour battle in Suzhou to reach the quarterfinals. Stay tuned for more news.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod. Pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse, magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity.
The Philippine Migrant Workers Department confirms the safe return of all 12 Filipino crew members aboard the Dutch-flagged cargo ship Minerva wrecked following a reported attack in the Gulf of Aden. The two of the seafarers are still receiving medical care, but all are now secure under government supervision. Authorities say the Filipino crew, along with their multinational colleagues, are safe and under government care. Out of the 12 Filipinos, 2 remain in medical treatment, one with minor injuries and another in stable condition despite more serious wounds. DMW Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak confirmed that arrangements are underway to fly the seafarers home this weekend. Upon arrival, the crew will receive medical check-ups from the Department of Health, accommodation assistance from the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, and psychosocial and financial support from the Department of Social Welfare and Development. The DMW, in coordination with the Department of Foreign Affairs and the vessel's owners, continues to oversee the repatriation process. Families of the affected seafarers have been informed and are receiving close support. Kakdak stressed the government remains focused on ensuring not just their safe return, but also the welfare of their families during this challenging time. Philippines Vice President Sara personally went to Cebu to assess the situation and meet with residents affected by the deadly 6.9 magnitude earthquake that struck the province on September 30th. She also offered a heartfelt prayer for the people of the Visayas as they face the devastation left by the tremor. Let's find out more about this with Jason Rubrico.
Vice President Sara arrived in Medellin, Cebu, one of the hardest hit areas following the magnitude 6.9 earthquake. Video footage shared online shows widespread damage with power and water still cut off. The Vice President personally reached out to residents, assuring them of support from her office. She immediately directed the OVP satellite office in Cebu to mobilize resources for affected families. Meanwhile, OVP satellite offices in Eastern Visayas, Panay and Negros have been placed on standby for possible augmentation of relief operations.
Sa akong mga kaigsuunan sa Cebu ug uban pang mga isla sa Visayas, kinasing-kasing nga pag-ampo ug pakasubo sa tanang apektado sa linog nga mitay og sa Visayas.
The Vice President further expressed compassion for those who lost their homes and loved ones.
Nasayod ako nga dili matungkad ang kasakit nga inyong gibati ug kalisod nga inyong giatubang karon. Apan taliwala sa gibilin nga kadaot sa trahedya sa inyong mga pamilya o komunidad, dili unta kamo mawad-an ug pagsalig ug paglaom. Magsilbi unta kamong tinugdan sa kakusog, kamaayo ug kadasig sa tanan.
VP Sara also assured the people of Cebu of her prayers and solidarity.
We are fervently praying for your safety in Cebu and other parts of the Visayas affected by the earthquake and aftershocks. We ask God to grant comfort to those who have lost loved ones and to provide relief and strength for those holding their families together amid property loss and damage.
The Vice President concluded with a message of resilience for the people of the Visayas.
May you find strength in one another and may the legendary Visayan warmth and resilience shine through amidst this deep sorrow.
Reporting for Newsline World, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
In other news, Hamas may agree to the 20-point ceasefire plan proposed by U.S. President Donald Trump, but only if certain key amendments are included, according to a source close to the group. The source says Hamas is asking for guarantees that the ceasefire will be fully respected, including a complete halt to hostilities and clear safeguards to prevent renewed attacks. The group also wants a specific timetable for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, emphasizing that disarming its resistance is considered an existential issue. Hamas is reportedly insisting that Gaza's reconstruction be overseen by a Palestinian body rather than an international council to ensure local control over rebuilding and relief efforts. While no official statement has been issued by Hamas, the source says the leadership is reviewing the plan carefully and amendments could determine whether a temporary truce is possible. At the United Nations Security Council, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda openly traded blame for the violence in eastern Congo. Both sides accuse each other of fueling the conflict while urging the international community to intervene. MJ Mondihar reports.
For more than 30 years, Eastern Congo has been mired in conflict. Armed groups compete for control of its vast mineral wealth, while civilians pay the heaviest price. The instability dates back to the aftermath of the 1994 Rwandan genocide, when regional tensions spilled across borders, leading to two devastating wars often called Africa's World Wars. Today, violence continues. Earlier this year, M23 rebels launched major advances across Congo's east. The United States stepped in this summer to mediate a peace agreement in Washington. But recently, Congo's ambassador told the Security Council that the pact is meaningless unless Rwanda pulls its troops and halts support for rebels. Tensions flared as the Democratic Republic of Congo accused Rwanda of fueling instability by backing the M23 rebel group.
Le Conseil de sécurité, garant du maintien de la paix et de la sécurité internationale, doit veiller à la stricte application de cet accord, désormais indissociable de la mise en œuvre de sa résolution 2773. Tant que ces décisions ne seront pas exécutées, le sang des innocents continuera de couler.
Rwanda's envoy pushed back, accusing Kinshasa of harboring the FDLR militia, a group linked to perpetrators of the 1994 genocide, and criticizing what he called a biased UN report. The latest session put the spotlight on the fragile U.S. peace agreement signed in June. and the future of the UN peacekeeping mission, MONUSCO, or the UN Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a peacekeeping force tasked with stabilizing Eastern Congo.
The persistent and dangerous presence of the DRC-backed FDR and the implications for MONUSCO's future role as the peace agreement moves into implementation. I wanted to reiterate that the Washington Agreement creates a role for MONUSCO, and this requires that MONUSCO positions itself to implement this role in a constructive way. So the advice we are giving here is in that logic. While we value reporting, the latest report on Eastern DRC reflects troubling omissions. Chief among them is the failure to sufficiently address one of the most dangerous drivers of violence, and that is hate speech and identity-based persecution.
Beyond the chamber, violence continues to displace millions in the region, raising fears that without progress, the conflict could spill further across borders. Reporting for Newsline World.
Hala, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Uy, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Ano kayang gagawin ko? Ipamimigay ko yung konti para tumigil sila sa pag-iingay.
Pare, magnanakaw, namimigay ng pera.
Ito ang sayo.
Wow! Ang bait ng magnanakaw!
Ito naman sayo.
Kuya, yung share
eto
ko. Sana
Huwag ka nang maingay. Eto pa. Tama na yan. Nakikipalato lang kayo eh. Huwag nang maingay. Di ba? Konti lang pinamigay ko. Mabait na ako. Tahimik na sila. Easy. Ngayon, pwede ko na tong suluhin.
Masaya ang mga tao, pero tama po ba ito? Di po ba ang nakikinabang sa magnanakaw ay kasabwat ng magnanakaw?
Ikaw, kinukonsenti mo ba ang legal na korupsyon?
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas. Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubhang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado, 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/3 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon. Ayon sa schedule ng pasyente, ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa.
For more news, the United States government shutdown has entered its second day, with partisan divisions in Congress showing no sign of easing. While Democrats and Republicans clash over healthcare funding, new political tensions have erupted, this time over President Donald Trump's controversial remarks and fresh calls to invoke the 25th Amendment. Hannah Jane Sancho reports.
The shutdown began after lawmakers failed to agree on a spending bill. At the center of the dispute are extended Affordable Care Act subsidies, which Democrats insist are vital for 24 million Americans, while Republicans demand restrictions to prevent alleged reimbursements for undocumented immigrants, a claim fact-checkers say is unfounded. The deadlock has forced federal agencies to halt services and has already forced hundreds of thousands of federal workers off the job, closed national parks, and is costing the economy an estimated $1 to $2 billion a day. Tempers flared on Capitol Hill Tuesday night. A Republican proposal fell short in the Senate with a 55-45 vote, while a Democrat-backed bill was also blocked, leaving no resolution in sight.
I thought humans had advanced more as a species, but apparently we haven't. What do I mean by a shutdown? Well, we can't keep government open without a budget.
President Trump blames Democrats for the shutdown, warning of mass layoffs, and even suggesting the closure could be used to get rid of Democrat things. But his latest remarks about turning cities like Chicago into training grounds for the U.S. military have drawn fierce backlash. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and fellow Democrats are calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked against Trump. The 25th Amendment outlines presidential succession in cases of death, resignation, or incapacity. If invoked, Vice President J.D. Vance would immediately step in as acting president.
It remains the wrong option today because it does nothing, absolutely nothing, to solve the biggest healthcare crisis in America.
Republican leaders, however, argue Democrats are politicizing the crisis.
The simple truth is Democrats in Congress have dragged our country into another reckless shutdown to satisfy their far-left base. That is the truth. Whether or not the government remains open or reopens is entirely up to them.
The shutdown turmoil has been compounded by sweeping budget decisions from the Trump administration. Budget Director Ross Vought announced nearly $8 billion in climate funding is being canceled across 16 states, most led by Democratic governors. He also froze $18 billion in New York City infrastructure projects, citing unconstitutional DAI requirements. With the government shutdown deepening, climate and infrastructure funds now frozen, and call for Trump's removal under the 25th Amendment gaining traction. Washington faces both an economic shock and a constitutional test for millions of Americans. Uncertainty only grows as negotiations remain at a standstill. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SM9 News.
New leaders of the Philippine government's Anti-Insurgency Task Force, or NTF-LCAC, have officially taken their oaths at Malacanang. The ceremony included newly appointed cabinet officers for regional development and security, members of the executive committee, and cluster heads as part of the ongoing efforts to strengthen the agency. Kristel Guangco will give us the details.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
In a press briefing, NTF-LCAC Executive Director Undersecretary Ernesto Torres Jr. said 4 new courts, or cabinet officers for regional development and security, have been designated following the recent resignation of several cabinet officials as part of the government's ongoing efforts to strengthen the leadership of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict. Among those sworn in includes the ICT Secretary Henry Aguda as courts for Region 4B, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon as courts for Region 9, replacing former Secretary Manuel Bunuan. DOH Secretary Teodoro Herbosa as courts for Region 10, succeeding Jose Rizalino Acuzar. DA Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. as courts for Region 12, replacing Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga. In addition, several high-level officials were inducted into the NTF-ELCAC Executive Committee. Among those are DFA Secretary Maria Teresa Lazaro, PCO Secretary Dave Gomez, DSUD Secretary Jose Ramon Aliling, DOE Secretary Sharon Garin, PNP Acting Chief Lieutenant General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr., CHED Chairperson Shirley Agrupis, and Solicitor General Darlene Berberabe. Bishop Noel Pantoja, National Director of the Philippine Council of Evangelical Churches, also took his oath as a member of the Executive Committee. PCEC, through Pantoja, serves as one of 2 permitted private sector representatives on the Execom. New NTF-ELCAC cluster heads were also officially designated during the ceremony, with National Security Council Assistant Director General Francis Jude Lawenco and PCO Assistant Secretary Marie Eala Eduarte Clark appointed as co-leads of the Strategic Communications Cluster. Meanwhile, National Anti-Poverty Commission Secretary Lopez Santos III and National Commission on Indigenous Peoples Chairperson Marie Grace Pascua will be taking leadership roles in the Sectoral Unification Capacity Building Empowerment and Mobilization Cluster. And Foreign Affairs Assistant Secretary Elmer Cato sworn in as head of the International Engagement Cluster. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Kristel Guangco, SMNI News.
For sports update, Eala outlasts Belgium's Great Minnen in the 3-hour thriller to reach the Sojo Open quarterfinals, while the Las Vegas Aces booked their 4th finals trip in 6 years after a dramatic overtime win over the Indiana Fever in Game 5. Carlo Del Peña has the news.
Eala showed remarkable resilience at the Sunjan International Tennis Center, enduring a 3-hour test of nerves and stamina against the power-hitting Minnen. The Filipina opened strong with a 3-0 lead in the first set, but lost momentum before rallying from 0-3 down in a tie-break to steal the set 7-6, 7-5. Minnen, ranked number 72 in the world with career earnings of over $3 million, refused to fold. She regrouped in the second set tie-break 7-6, 7-3 to force a deciding set. The final frame turned into a tense back-and-forth battle, with Eala finally prevailing on her 3rd match point as Minnen's forehand went long. Minnen fired 9 aces compared to Eala's 3, but the Filipina had the last word, finishing with 127 total points against her opponent's 119. With the win, the 4th-seeded Eala advanced to her 4th straight quarterfinal appearance and secured at least $3,450 in prize money, over 200,000 pesos. She now sets up a last 8 clash with Swiss 6th seed Victoria Golovic, a former world number 35 currently ranked 90, who earlier cruised past Czech Linda Fruhvirtova 6-2, 6-0. Meanwhile, Las Vegas leaned on Chelsea Gray's heroics in overtime to break free from a resilient Indiana squad. Gray, who briefly left the game with a foot scare, returned to score 8 of her 17 points in the extra period, including back-to-back threes that gave the Aces control. Aja Wilson and Jackie Young combined for 67 points, but the Fever refused to fold. Odyssey Sims poured in 27 points, while Aaliyah Boston posted a double-double before fouling out late. Indiana forced overtime after a clutch Sims layup tied the game at 86 all with 22 seconds left. The Aces steadied in the extra session, with Wilson and Young sinking crucial free throws in the closing seconds to seal the win and set up a finals clash with the Phoenix Mercury. Indiana's Cinderella playoff run came to an end as the short-handed Fever battled bravely despite missing several key players, including Caitlin Clark. Coach Stephanie White praised her team's resilience, calling them an absolute joy to coach and an example of perseverance. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo De La Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
For today's showbiz updates, comedy legend Jim Carrey is set to be honored with the coveted Honorary César Award at the 51st ceremony next year to recognize his outstanding contributions to cinema and comedy worldwide. In other news, royal family drama collided with disaster this week as reports surfaced that Thomas Markle Sr., the estranged father of Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, was trapped in a high-rise apartment in Cebu during a powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake. But is this really a crisis or just another chapter in a family feud? Let's find out more about this with Stella Maris.
The earthquake that rattled northern Cebu sent residents scrambling for safety. Amid the chaos, Samantha Markle took to social media, posting that her 79-year-old father, who has limited mobility, was unable to leave his apartment due to the building's height and his medical condition. Samantha announced the sudden news on her X account. The alarming statement quickly went viral, sparking questions about whether Meghan Markle was aware of the situation and if she was doing anything to help. Samantha didn't hold back, publicly accusing the Duchess of neglect and even going so far as to call her evil. However, just hours later, Samantha updated the public, saying that her father was in safe condition. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have remained silent on the matter. Thomas Markle Sr. moved to Cebu earlier this year with hopes of peace and reconciliation. Yet despite Samantha's claims, the truth soon emerged with a shocking denial. In a recent interview, Thomas Markle Sr. dismissed the whole ordeal, saying he was not trapped at all. He revealed his apartment is about 100 miles away from the earthquake's epicenter and insisted he was sitting comfortably throughout the quake, far from any real danger. As the drama unfolds, one thing is clear: the Markle family feud continues to play out in public in a spectacle that refuses to fade. The French Film Academy announced a tribute to the beloved actor Jim Carrey, recognizing his outstanding contributions to cinema and comedy worldwide. Known for his energy and unforgettable performance in classics like The Mask, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Jim Carrey has long been a staple of Hollywood's comedic elite. Now his career will receive international recognition from one of Europe's most prestigious film institutions. The César Awards, often dubbed the French Oscars, celebrate excellence in French cinema and global icons who have made an impact on the film industry. In announcing the honor, the Academy of Cinema Arts and Techniques praised Carrey for his versatility, noting his ability to blend comedy and drama, considered as a rare talent that has won him critical acclaim as well as box office success. Carrey's fans around the world eagerly await his appearance in Paris next February, where he will join an elite group of international stars who have previously received the honorary award. As the 51st César Awards approaches, all eyes will be on Carrey's acceptance speech, sure to be as memorable and iconic as always. And that's all for today's showbiz news. This is Stella Maris, your citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest showbiz.
Visitors are left utterly breathless as China unveils the Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge, the tallest bridge on the planet, cutting travel times drastically and set to turn into a must-see tourist destination. Carolyn Lanilla for this story.
In a stunning feat of engineering and design, China has opened the Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge in Guizhou Province, the world's tallest bridge, cutting travel time across the deep canyon from 2 hours to just 2 minutes. Beyond its record-breaking height and length, the bridge promises to boost regional development and transform Guizhou into a global tourism hotspot. Visitors and officials alike are celebrating the opening of the Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge, which soars over 600 meters above the Beipan River, surpassing the previous record holder, the Doge Bridge, by 60 meters. Stretching nearly 2.9 kilometers through mountainous terrain. This marvel is not just a transport corridor, but a new icon of the growing prominence. Tourists describe the bridge as utterly stunning, praising its breathtaking architecture and the awe-inspiring views it offers. The bridge features a 207-meter sightseeing elevator, sky cafes, and viewing platforms, making it an instant tourist magnet. Officials highlight the bridge's transformative impact on local life and economy, anticipating it will connect key tourist destinations and stimulate regional business growth. As Guizhou continues to earn the nickname Bridge Museum of the World with nearly half of the planet's tallest bridges, the Huazhang Grand Canyon Bridge stands as a symbol of progress and innovation set to inspire for decades to come. Cherilyn Yanilio, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the sun. As long as you are sincere in seeking for salvation, the Father will not lead you astray. And as we keep track of the countdown, there's only 84 days left before Christmas. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Kristel Guangco. Thank you for watching.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.